Heyo, welcome back to Luck Management, the first official recording of 2024. And today we have two special guests on, another startup edition. It's going to be an incredible episode, always brought to you by CharmND. Hold a piece of Notre Dame in your hand. Today on the episode, we have Henry Davis and Joe Eiselt. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Heck yeah. Dude, so just to get started, founders of Tannin, that's going to be a big part of the episode today, just learning about your business, a mouthwash that's changing the game. I've seen some of the pictures, I've seen some of the promos, and it looks like an awesome product, but also two guys from the Charlotte connection. Originally from Charlotte, you guys, Country Day, Charlotte Prep. Me and Joe have been buddies since 4th grade or 5th grade, playing basketball together, playing like football out on the Charlotte Prep days. It's awesome to be able to catch up.
When you're in a grade of 18 people, we kind of had to play all sports.
That's true, man. We played everything, and those days were awesome. But it's a pleasure to have you guys here and to talk about luck management. So, wanted to get started on the idea of luck management. So the way that I've built this out and the way that I've looked at it is that luck management is defined as the opportunities and experiences that come along the way when you're put into different situations, good or bad. Sometimes you're hit by good luck, sometimes you're hit by bad luck, but it's the hard work that you're putting in before you reach those moments. And it's the hard work you put in after. It's how you seize on those opportunities. It's how you grow yourself. It's how you actually build who you are. I also equate that to like skills management. You use your skills to be the best you. Use what you have and use what you know and be able to connect and build that out. So I want to start it off and just ask both of you what you guys think about the definition of luck.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I think it's such a compelling name for a podcast, and for me, what it brought up was sort of this mentality. Because I think about the times in which I've really landed in luck, and luck has been on my side, and the times in which it hasn't. And it's felt like it's a lot of like a life posture and what I'm believing about life. And to say that another way, like, do I believe life is for me or is life against me? And when I start to believe life is for me, and in a hand posture way, like I open my palms as opposed to putting my palms to the floor.
Love that. Yeah.
Doors start to open, right? Things start to happen, and I can kind of ride that momentum that life has. I mean, I think we've all felt that, like those days in which things are really going. You start to believe that. You're like, wow, life is really for me. Things are moving. Things are grooving. And luck seems to really come behind us and be like a wind at our back. And then those moments in which I'm closed off to the world, that I start to have that victim mindset that can sneak in, right? That's when I feel like luck really doesn't come, and those opportunities don't show up. And even if they do, maybe I don't have the confidence to step through the door. We were just talking before this, the different paths in life, right? And life is always opening different doors. And it's our responsibility to look and say, well, what's opening? And then when it does, am I willing, am I confident enough to step through that door and take the chance, take the risk?
I love that, the open palms.
Yeah. That deciding to open the palm and say, I'm going to be open to luck, to believing the life is for me and allowing luck to start to show up. Because it will. I feel like luck, no one gets especially lucky. Like there's, maybe it appears that way on the outside, but
it does.
What I get from that definition is, how am I positioning myself for luck to show up?
100% agree. Joe, what about you?
Well, I think for one thing, this will be a good time to preface for this entire podcast. Nothing I'm going to say is going to be as graceful as how Henry says it.
Total.
Okay, disclaimer across the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe's humility is coming out. That's the real disclaimer.
No, I think like
watch him come in with the most performance now.
he drops nuggets left and right. But he just doesn't even know he drops.
Hey, under sell, overperform, right?
Yeah. No, I think the Dalai Lama said. No, just kidding. No, I think with luck, it's like, maybe people have their like assumptions. Like I think of good luck, honestly, when I just think of luck. But the reality is, it's just random chance, right? Like we encounter that all the time in life, and you can kind of label it as like good luck or bad luck. And I'm certainly not coming up with anything like brand new right here saying it, but it's just kind of about like how you deal with it, right? Like if you can kind of accept that things are going to happen and wrap your head around that, and understand like what has happened, and then like what is the next move, and your way of responding to it. I think that's just kind of that's what luck kind of boils down to me, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing too. Like it's also, I think, important to separate any factors that might feel like they are part of luck or like random chance too. You know? And be grateful for those, or I don't know, acknowledge those. It might help you kind of like compartmentalize or like better grasp like what's happened, good or bad.
A lot of people talk about luck and then they equate it to being blessed and being able to have those opportunities. And kind of like you said, opening up your palms. When you expect good things, when you push for good things, when you want good things, that's when good things start to build. And you have a plan behind it and you want it to happen. When you close yourself off, palms down, you're not going to be able to open up or see what's out there. And it makes me think of the red car theory. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. The red car theory is, how many red cars did you guys see on the road today? Did you drive today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for them.
Exactly. So next time you go on the road, be keenly aware of those red cars. Count them. And you are going to see so many red cars on the road now. So you need to change and shift that mindset to say, all right, what am I looking for and where can I find those lucky opportunities? So.
No, I think you're right on with that. And it is, I mean, that's when my life really changed, when I think I had that shift. I have to continue to have it, but just realizing my life really is for us. Like and we can ride it. And I mean, I know that's how we got here today. It was just, we didn't have to start a business, but we were open to the possibility that might make sense, and am I open for who I might meet tomorrow that could change my life? Am I open for the opportunity that I didn't expect that's exactly what I've been looking for? And it just feels like the right posture to walk through life with, if we hope to have that luck that we always hear about and we always aspire to have ourselves.
Right? Shoulders back. Shoulders back. Get ready for it. That's awesome. I completely agree. And I guess shifting a little bit, I want to hear about, we do this thing on the podcast called the highs and lows of the week. So just a quick, any good things, big things, or a shout out of the week that you guys want to give that's been impactful for you guys so far. Even though it's a Monday, you can fall back a week and stuff. What's been highs and lows?
Yeah. I love this question, by the way. It's such a classic, but it really is just, it never gets old.
Dinner table conversation. I did it as a kid with my parents all the time.
We did the same thing, and I don't know if that's what this is what y'all did, but we would start with the low, so you end with the high.
You end with the high, yeah.
So hit them with the low.
Well, business related. We've had a pretty big kind of a issue with our supplier of our actual bottles. They're over in Asia, and they got a holiday going on, and communication could have been better, and now we're trying to kind of scramble.
Whose end?
I don't like to point fingers, but
we know that in conflict resolution, you always focus on your slice of the pie, even if it's only 2%. So we'll say everyone.
All of us. Cool. Okay.
So that's been a little frustrating. So I think that'd be low.
Is it in the production of the bottles? Is it what's the issue there?
It was literally just like where our place in the queue was to get our some bottles produced on time and kind of keep on the same timeline. And it's literally resulted in us like looking for alternate suppliers for a particular batch of inventory.
Well, and little did you know, I mean, we knew that Chinese New Year was a big deal over there. In fact, it's on the bucket list to go someday. But
For sure.
little did we know that 25 days would be how much time would be taken off for that holiday.
25 days?
5 days from the production team at our partners over there. So
God, Johnny does it right.
So yeah, that was definitely a low, but let's kick it into some highs.
Yeah, I mean, it gets into perspective, right? Like now, what we're learning is like it's actually a pretty decent strategy to have a backup supplier anyway, and have more relationships in that way because other stuff can happen. You know what I mean? Like this isn't the only negative thing that could potentially factor into us, supplying bottles from a country across an entire ocean. So it's teaching us, that there's more value to it, and
yeah.
You got to think about what's within the bottles, man. But yeah, I respect that. That's cool.
Well, a win. This is a bit more of a personal, but I feel like the organization of my mind is really only as good as the organization of my closet. And I've had an absolutely discombobulated closet for quite some time. This weekend, I finally built the closet system that allows me to organize my closet. Like I didn't have anything to hang clothes on.
You need hangers, man.
You need like a pole or something to hang clothes on. So I just had piles. It's been like a bunch of piles, and now I got no piles on the floor. My closet is organized. My brain just feels so much better.
Oh, dude, it's like vacuuming, right? Like you don't want to do it, but when you see that cleanness and you see everything just gone, you're like, oh, okay, I could do anything. And then you start stacking habits.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so
That's a good high.
I'm feeling good about that.
Any lows? Anything on that? Or is that a collective low on the business front?
That was a collective low on the business front.
Fair enough. Hey,
Yeah.
no other lows? That's a pretty good life right there, right?
Pretty good week. Yeah, no complaints.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
All right. I'd say my high of the week, yesterday I went to church and then I spent like 4 hours at a dog shelter, and I'm really considering getting a dog. There's a couple rescues that I was possibly leaning towards. One was like a Siberian Husky and one was like a Staffordshire mix, and they're amazing. I was out there for 4.5 hours walking them, petting them. I got so much hair on me. It was crazy. But I ended up not pulling the trigger, and I needed to sleep on it a little bit. But I left that parking lot like 6 times and came back because I was like, do it! Don't do it! Do it! It's huge decision, huge life decision, but I'm inching closer and closer, so I'm proud of myself for that.
That's impressive restraint. I would have 0% of that restraint. I would have bought the puppy in a moment, and then probably look back and be like,
Okay, so my whole schedule shifts.
Yeah.
I literally have like a kid.
Literally. Think about how this would change every part of my life.
You have a name picked out?
So I was thinking about Lou, for Lou Holtz. We've always named our dogs after Notre Dame legends in my household, and so it's always been really fun. We've had like Skylar Diggins. We had Gippy for like win one for the Gipper, and then Newt Rockney. So we had Rockney back in the day, and so I've thought about that. But some of them have names, and they're a little bit older, so they're not just puppies. So I would have to kind of go through a process of reteaching a name. And you know what they say, old dogs can't learn new tricks, so I don't know.
Oh.
Would Rudy be considered a Notre Dame name, or is that more just folklore?
That's also on the list.
Okay.
Definitely a folklore, but also a legend. Don't ask me how many times I've seen that movie.
I like Lou though. That's a great name. I like a good one syllable name for a dog.
Yeah. They always say you gotta do like K's or P's because the dog's hearing is able to like link to that. But if you find the right one, hey, I just want a dog that I can just have and chill. If I'm gaming, if I'm just hanging out, taking on long walks, just be outdoors. It's just, they make good humans.
They really do.
So, lows? No real lows. I mean, we got out of this winter. We had about a week of winter in Houston, and you guys, when I tell you the city shuts down when it's 30 degrees and there's a chance of freeze, everyone freaks out. Pipes burst everywhere. Houston goes wild for it. And me, I'm like, this is all right. Like, I can drive anywhere. I can get anywhere. But then all the stores are closed. Everything's closed. And I will say, though, the 30 degrees here hits different because you're right by the Gulf and you get that, like, wet cold. So I was kind of cold for a couple days. But we make do. So.
Yeah, that's why that ice storm was such a big deal in Texas a couple of years ago. It's like, this isn't supposed to happen. What is going on?
It was the apocalypse, man. Yeah. It was people are like, where were you during that storm? And I'm like, they just don't have the infrastructure. They don't have salt trucks. They don't have anything. And so people look at it like a tornado's running through. We survived though. And it was 69 degrees today and sunny. I was like, all right, I'm peak life right now.
We're back. Nice.
Exactly. All right. So moving on, I want to get into the world of Tannin. I want to get into each of your guys' backgrounds. Let's start there. Let's talk about what brought you to Tannin. What's up?
Just checking something with the audio.
Yeah, we're good.
Like if it's not moving, does that mean we're not being heard?
It's moving.
I can still hear you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you want to, maybe take it back to us meeting and journey.
Yeah, give us the whole rundown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we met when we were like 10. Actually, ironically, while growing up 5 minutes away here in Charlotte, we met in northern Wisconsin at a summer camp where my uncle's grandfather and cousin. Yeah. Can you hear?
Sorry. I got a call, so I had to like redo it. So you're good. Keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, we met at a summer camp. And when we were like 10 years old, kind of the only people from Charlotte, like us and our brothers, that being, and then just kind of like stayed in touch, I guess, as much as you can when you're like 10. And then,
there's no cell phones. Like,
yeah.
Like razors back in the day. Like
it was really like the next year of summer camp. We're like, you're still alive. I'm still alive. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So like, while, we didn't go to the same school. And then we both ended up working there one summer when we were like 18, 19, like kind of right before college or year into college. And I think that kind of, really developed like the relationship we were going to have like as adults, I think. And then while we didn't work a ton of summers together at the camp, we just stayed in touch. And we can go into a little more, but we both were doing like ventures outside of school and work at a time. I guess it would have been like 2018, 2019. And so
Ayo, today's luck management episode is brought to you by Charm ND, or Charmed, if you'd like to call it. Whatever you want to call it. It could be whatever you'd like. So Charm ND is an idea I came up with, and I'm super passionate about it. I've always wanted to hold a piece of Notre Dame in my hand. Highly customizable to whatever you want. And they have the grotto. They have the reflecting pond water from Hesburgh Library. They have 24 karat gold flakes, the dirt from Main Quad. They have stadium seat shavings from the old seats of Notre Dame. The Notre Dame Stadium football pellets of the enjoyed and loved football team. And if you want to make one customizable, I'm happy to work with you. Go Irish and go Charm ND. Now let's get back to the show.
You would just get on the phone and have like really great conversations. At least I thought they were. And so I think there was just like, this connection of like going through this experience. And then when it came time to actually starting Tannin, I think we just both knew we like had that kind of entrepreneurial interest. We had a work ethic. We were aware of each other's work ethic. And, so all of those sort of things you might consider first, right? In like going into business with someone, at least like we had this understanding already developed from years ago.
Yeah.
We were living together at the time. And it kind of worked out that Joe and I moved back to Charlotte. So we both graduated. I went to school down in New Orleans at Tulane, and Joe went to school at Marquette up in Milwaukee. And he had stayed up there. I had kind of ventured around. I'd lived in California and DC, and then done a lot of traveling and gotten more into video and content. And I think Joe was journeying around exploring PT school, but data management, and kind of figuring out what he wanted to be launching into. And like Joe said, we had both kind of worked on separate ventures, but all of it had led us to Charlotte around the same time. Which ended up being a huge blessing, because we were looking for housing, and we're like, we should just move in together. Let's be roommates. And Joe ended up finding this primo prime location for the best deal in Charlotte. And one of the greatest benefits of it was we were one block from this great coffee shop. And this coffee shop had a monthly membership. And so it was like a totally reasonable price for unlimited coffee, as much as you want. And
dang,
we were like a one cup in the morning a day, so that was enough for us. And this obviously wasn't great for our caffeine consumption, but it was fantastic for like our rhythm and routine. And it allowed us to have that moment every morning, just about, where we would take a coffee walk. And around this time, I had actually spent some time working at a coffee shop, making videos, and sort of just loving the community feel of a coffee shop. And I think that's something Joe always sunk up with, is just sort of like, I don't know, back in the old days, gather around the well, like when people would fill up their waters, the buckets of water to bring back to the house before running water. And I feel like, I don't know, coffee shops has kind of become that in our communities, where it's the gathering place, when you want to have a really good conversation, or you want to meet up with someone that you haven't talked to in a while. You meet up at a coffee shop. It's super approachable.
Friends.
Exactly. Friends. Like whatever it is. I mean, how many times have us in this call, or listeners, asked to grab a cup of coffee? You might not even drink coffee, but you still ask if you want to grab a cup of coffee, because it's more than the drink. It's the lifestyle.
True.
So I think Joe and I always embodied that, and we just loved going into that coffee shop and knowing the baristas and knowing the people in there. And
the cool part too is like the membership. They really didn't advertise it. The manager, she literally said, like, this is just something we kind of keep on the down low, and if we see people come in enough, we assume they're like in the neighborhood, and it's something we offer to them. Kind of as
that's cool.
Thanks for being part of like our community. And so it's like quite literally them like investing, because they would obviously make more money without having that, right? These like people who are constantly coming. And so it's a way that they're sort of like giving back in a way, and like really kind of trying to invest in that like relationship with the community and like the neighborhood around them, which is a cool thing.
I mean, they put no boundaries around it. You go in and be like, I'll take 5 nitro cold brews, and they'll just like give it all. No charge. It's so.
Dude, what's this coffee shop called?
Yeah. And so at this point, we're drinking a good amount of coffee, and I, concurrently, not too long before, had ventured off of my parents' dental plan and had just decided that I was gonna try to go as long as possible without going to the dentist, which I don't
That's a
recommend.
tough day, man. That's a
I
tough
don't
day when you get off
recommend
the
that.
dental plan.
And I've always been someone that feels a direct correlation with how my mouth feels and how I feel just as a whole.
I agree.
Like the first thing I do in the morning is I have a oral care routine, and like I tongue scrape, and I brush my teeth, I floss every day, I water pick. Like I'm like pretty meticulous about my mouth.
Yeah.
I feel like it matters in terms of how I can show up, and those things we do, like whether it be meditation, journaling, going to your favorite workout class. Like to me, that oral care routine is just as important as those things, and something that I take serious. And so knowing that I was combining this love for coffee, this coffee routine Joe and I would have every morning, I was just kind of struggling because I would notice my mouth would just feel funky after and I wasn't quite sure, do I brush my teeth before I go to the coffee shop? Do I brush my teeth after? And it's always just
those 5 nitro cold brews, bro.
Dude, I would be buzzing off my butt if I drank 5 nitros. But yeah, I mean, one a day keeps the doctor away. But and so I'm just in this exploration. I'm doing my research, and I started to get even more confused because I realized most doctors were recommending that I wait 30 minutes after my last sip of coffee in order to brush my teeth to avoid just spreading the acid around my mouth and actually embedding that acid deeper into my teeth.
Yeah.
And they don't recommend brushing right before either, because you're just sensitizing your teeth to the acid and also increasing the potential harm that coffee can create in your teeth. And so that's just on the enamel side of it. That's before we even talk about the obvious, the breath, the coffee breath, as someone who's meeting face to face a lot.
Been there, man.
Teeth, as someone who, wants to have a bright white smile, right? All of these things that were just like kind of bothering me. And so I remember talking to Joe about it, and he was like, yeah, that's interesting. Like I relate to some of those problems. And so we would just keep talking about it. I spent a month trying to set a timer where I would set a timer for 30 minutes after my last sip and then try to brush my teeth. And I realized it was every time the timer would go off, I'd be like, oh, crap, like I'm not by my toothbrush. Like it makes no sense. I drink coffee, ready to go. Like I'm working. Let's go.
Yeah, right. You're grinding on the computer, or you're moving, you're grooving, because that's when it starts hitting. Right? That's when the coffee slaps about 30 minutes in.
That's exactly right. And so, yeah, I think we just started talking about it more and more. And it was, once again, it was more just like a problem that we were having, and we started talking to more and more people, and I think we realized that we're not the only ones having this problem, and we even sat on it for a while. We would just kind of talk about it pretty casually, like, this is kind of interesting. Maybe we should really figure out if people have this problem. And so we did the survey.
Yeah, we created a survey that really like dove into questions around like people's oral hygiene habits, people's coffee drinking habits, and then like the combination of the two. And then, for those Charlotte folks, we sat on the rail trail, but for everyone else, just like one of the busiest like walking trails in Charlotte. We just sat and put up a table and gave out free cold brew for anyone who would come and take our survey. That took them a minute or two. And we just gave them free coffee. And obviously it sparked a conversation like coffee does, but it also got, we got tons of people to take the survey and just got a really kind of nice, like dive into just like a typical consumer's like relationship with coffee from an oral hygiene standpoint. What they know, what they don't know, what bothers them. And so it was super insightful.
Yeah, you see thousands of people walking up down that trail every weekend and stuff. And to get them with the coffee, be like, we're going to fix that too.
Yeah, I literally like people, because no one wants to be bothered. You know what I mean? Everyone's on their like their hot guy walk, like
selling Jesus, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And like we would just be like, hey, you have a moment? And they'd be like, no. We're like, we got free coffee. And they're like, okay.
Like, what'd you put in this coffee?
1,000 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, but we kind of took that data, we synthesized it, sat with it, and we're like, wow, okay, we are not the only ones with this problem. One and two, what would it look like? Because we love this lifestyle of connection that coffee promotes, and it seems like if there's anything disconnecting about coffee, it is this piece where it just doesn't sync up with our mouth. And if we could solve that problem, perhaps we could promote even more connection and enhance people's coffee lifestyle and create a business that makes sense and can do good in the world. And that's kind of where the seed started. And we started, to talk about that open palm approach. It was like, okay, well, let's just start to, and this is maybe my favorite part of entrepreneurship. Okay, we have this problem. We have an idea of maybe what a solution could be.
Yep.
There's nothing on the market that is a coffee mouth rinse. What would it look like to create that? How would we even go about that? And to me, that's exciting. That's like, okay, let's launch into
against big mouthwash, man. I'm like, whoa, dude, you got to watch out for the crest. You got to get ready for anything coming your way.
You got to watch out for the crest because they're hitting you with that alcohol and they're stripping all the good bacteria from the mouth, man. It's bad news bears with those big mouthwash brands.
That's actually something we learned while we were designing the formula, because we really built the original formula at home, and we went to like the local grocery store and took a picture of every single mouthwash on the shelf, and then spent like months, like post work, just researching every active and inactive ingredient, understanding what it is, what it does in mouthwashes, what it does, what else it's in, and what are scientists and what are people saying about it, and some of the stuff we found, it's just kind of crazy.
Bad.
And the fact that it's like you're putting it in your mouth, but perhaps it's just because they tell you to spit it out that they can get away with some of this stuff. And we were just kind of blown away by that and felt like it was a very outdated industry, I guess, with like the options that were there. And I think too, one of the things that we appreciate about coffee is like such a natural thing. And so we wanted to kind of create something that not only moved away from the traditional formulas, but that also kind of complemented and respected the natural origins and everything about coffee.
Yeah. So, and speaking of mouthwash, like I've read some stuff that it washes out a ton of good bacteria in your mouth, and it can really get into places that aren't good. I've seen it time and time again. I actually don't use traditional mouthwash. I've talked to Joe about this. I do some oil pulling.
Right.
So I do a little bit of that. I even mouth tape so that I'm not like sleeping with my teeth like that. And it makes a huge difference. So Henry, on your point, like your mouth, I mean, I have a podcast, dude. I live and die by the mouth, man. The smile has to get me through an episode. And I'm always trying to take care of it. And the problem you guys are solving is one that goes to hundreds of millions of people. Like, way to start niche, guys. You guys went to 1 billion people that drink coffee, and everybody has coffee breath. There's nothing worse than getting that coffee breath when you see somebody, especially someone you like. You're like, yeah, step back. So I completely agree. And to be able to start with that big idea and scale it back down, the ingredients, talking about the bottle and talking about what you're doing in there, is it all natural? What is in the Tannin Rinse? Unless there's any like secret ingredients we can't talk about, the special formula.
Oh, it's a great question, and so much to say about just what we're learning about the oral microbiome as well, and how these mouthwashes can affect our mouth in a really negative way, and how diseases often start from there. It's the second biggest biome after the gut in our body. I wish I could speak on it more, and I'm learning so much about it, and it's obviously become a passion, but it's amazing what we're finding about how impactful it is. And so I think it was really important for us that this mouth rinse works with that oral microbiome, and we partnered with dentists while also partnering with baristas to figure out how do we create a really tailored product to coffee that's specific to the harmful effects of coffee, from a flavor profile to the functionality of the ingredients. And we use ingredients like aloe vera, xylitol, baking soda.
Cool.
I think from day one, I mean, from day one of formulation at home, we were putting our formulas in front of a dentist that we were in contact with long before the actual formulation, and just being like, hey, does this look legit? Like neither of us are dentists, but we've done a heck of a lot of work to kind of compile, what we can on effective natural ingredients and understanding how they interact with each other even, and, referencing just a ton of different studies on, I mean, we would literally read different studies on just each individual ingredient, right? Like, let's just take like cinnamon oil, right? Like just cinnamon oil we really liked. And so we started, we learned a lot about it. We read all these different articles about like the effectiveness and, but also, maybe any side effects, like, because we just wanted to understand each single ingredient and to know that each one was in there intentionally. But then again, talking to dentists and being like, hey, like, how does this look to you? Professionally speaking.
And one of the key questions we had to ask ourselves first and foremost was, what is it about coffee that starts to create that coffee breath, that starts to create those harmful effects?
Yeah, what is it?
And what it is actually the tannins in the coffee.
Hence the name.
And what we found out about tannins, right? These magical compounds found abundantly in nature, all over the place. We just don't even notice them. They're in the bark, the trees, the plants, all the natural things, which coffee, of course, is. It gives it that astringent, incredible flavor that we all love. It also sucks up because it sticks, the tannins in the coffee stick to our teeth, and they leave the saliva in our mouth to dry out our mouths. And when our mouth doesn't have saliva is when a lot of those oral health issues can start to surface, especially the stereomutants, the bad breath that we know as coffee breath. And so one of the key functionalities of our rinse is we have to re-moisturize the mouth. And so we have some really powerful re-moisturizing agents in there that do that really well. And then, so that there was the ingredient piece, and then the other piece, which we sat with in this product, which is, hey, there's a lot of products out there. Like, we don't want to just be another product that's putting more random crap and waste in the world. And,
totally.
No shame to other products out there, but we just decided that from the get-go, like, that was important to us. And we really feel that, the recycle, like having something that's recyclable is obviously great and important, but how do we even go further? And that's why we ultimately landed on an aluminum bottle model that is really meant to be refillable. Believing refills is the future, even more so than recycling. And so that's why we chose to create aluminum-based packaging that when you buy one bottle, you can buy a super eco-friendly refillable bag that allows you to refill that mouth rinse and not have to keep buying more and more of the raw package.
Yeah, you're creating something for a purpose and something that you can be using again. And I think consumers and people all around that care about what they're doing, because you just see all this plastic, you see all of this, the PFAS, I think they call them, like all the stuff that drains in after you put things in plastic, that gets into your mouth. That can have a huge impact in your biome and stuff like that. And I find that to be really interesting, how you made that eventual shift. And everything's been thought of meticulously for hours on like the color schemes. Joe sent me a couple photos like, do we go white? Do we go silver there? You got to think about those things, and you have to be ready to take it on. On some of those decisions that you guys have made, I mean, Henry, with your education background, with your video and working in like the media side of things, and Joe working as a consultant and building out business plans, specifically for each of you, where are you guys seeing some of maybe your biggest hardships so far, and even bring in some of your biggest accomplishments? And that could be for the future or what's coming, but I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, the first hardship, I guess, is the fact that neither of us are a dentist. Like we had to learn a lot of this stuff on the go. But, I think what it went down to is like just finding valuable people who are willing to give their time.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like you're never going to be the perfect fit. Like there's so much that goes into starting something like this. And that's kind of the exciting thing, I guess, for me, is like getting to find the people who are willing to help and are going to be valuable in that way, and just really staying close.
True.
Yeah, I think there's the obvious hurdle too of just money, which is
Yeah.
one, finding the money for the business, because the reality of even something that feels like it shouldn't be that high of an overhead has a pretty high overhead, and we're now working with labs and chemists, and it just very quickly, all the legal costs that go into it, like it gets more expensive than you expect fairly quickly.
Ayo, this episode is sponsored and brought to you by CharmND. CharmND specializes in creating unique and authentic sterling silver vials and real items from around the Notre Dame campus. Each charm is carefully handmade and contains a little piece of the Fighting Irish spirit. Vials filled with dirt from the iconic main quad, pellets from the hollowed ground of the Notre Dame football stadium, wood shavings from the seats of the stadium, 24-karat golds from the Notre Dame football helmets, water from the serene St. Joseph's Lake, candle wax from the peaceful grotto, water from the Notre Dame reflecting pond, and holy water for added blessings. Charms are priced at between $20 and $30 and can be customized to your needs as a necklace or a lucky charm. Check us out at charm_ND at Instagram. Our charms are a perfect gift for any Notre Dame fan or alum. So go CharmND and go Irish. Now let's get back to the show.
Totally.
Then neither of us are able to do this full time yet. That other piece of how do I balance this work with the other things I have going on, and maintain excellence across everything I'm doing, and make sure that I'm bringing in enough to afford my life, and I'm not working from a place of lack or scarcity. Just maintaining that that mental wellness that I know we talked about before we even started this podcast, on how important that foundation is to success in any business.
Yeah, man, it's a scary thing because there's the world of you have your real job and then you have your passions. You hope to God that you have a job that is your full passion, but the fact of the matter is you're not always going to. Sometimes you got to do what you're really good at. Sometimes you got to do what isn't easy. But the fact that you guys are finding this time and this ability to go do that, how do you guys deal with that time management? Is it like, hey, let's do an hour a day and let's link up, or let's get on a call, or I have these jobs and you have those jobs? How do you guys split that out?
Well, I think for one thing, it like starts with an understanding, and like, I was told by another, someone who started a really successful consumer brand now. He actually worked at the same company. He also worked at EY a while ago. And he told me, he's like, do everything you can to keep like your day job, so you don't have to pay yourself. Because in a company like this, like where we have to buy inventory, like anything we don't have to pay ourselves means we can buy more inventory, and sell more product. And
Yeah.
so really, like, because if without that like understanding, every day I'd be like, I just want to freaking quit my job.
I know it, man.
It's like pulling teeth, because like obviously I want to pour myself into this, and but I think just recognizing the value of having the day job, because the truth is too, it's created a lot of really good networking opportunities. A lot of we talk about valuable people, like just super valuable connections in the startup world and the corporate world, who are the right match, and we would have maybe never met them without that. And so figuring out the time management, and you talked about, do we just dedicate like an hour a day? I kind of think it started like that. We started more like, all right, every week, like we're meeting on Tuesday morning, and we're gonna sit on the back porch and work in the morning. And that obviously has just grown into kind of dedicating more time to it. But then also with like it all getting much more real, then you also start to be like, okay, there's a lot we got to do. So like any time we have, it's got to go towards this. And then we start working with vendors and partners, and suddenly it's like, oh, they're only available from 8 to 5. So I guess we're doing more work 8 to 5. And now I'm doing my day job at, midnight because we had to do a bunch of Tannin stuff during the business hours.
Yeah. And then I think the key is communication too, and making sure we stay on the same page. And
Totally.
Especially as we kind of cast some vision for the year and realize, it's only going to ramp up. I mean, if it's working, it's only going to mean more time. And I think for me, it's definitely looked like, okay, kind of positioning my life to be flexible in a way in which, I can adapt my time as needed to give more to it. I think Joe took a bit of a smarter route going with that corporate part-time job, considering I'm in the nonprofit space. It doesn't quite give me that security on the other end. So still got some of that, but it's also very connected to, I think, the larger impact we want to create for this business, which, is purpose beyond product, and how do we use this to genuinely create more social connectedness and combat the loneliness epidemic. And we talk about connection, coffee's ability to connect. And, so a lot of the work that I do is kind of within that space. And so cool. See how aligned all of the things that we're doing are. And and it's, like we started the podcast talking about, whether it's a blessing or it's luck or it's somewhere in between. It's been a lot of fun to be able to work with Joe on this. And we also, my younger brother is also involved. And so just being able to work with two of my favorite people on a project that I'm super passionate about. And just a small aside, I wonder sometimes too if that passion is something we should wait for and it hits us, or if it's just something we choose to believe we have and be assigned it somewhere. When you think about this idea of being finding a job that you're passionate about, or just something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing because it's always hard in the beginning. I mean, for both of you guys, like getting into it, you're like, oh, this is really hard. And then you go a year or you go 6 months and you're building it out. You're like, this is still hard. But you start to build that repetition. You start to build that core of like, okay, I've been doing this, so I'm going to keep doing this. But then on the fly, you have to be meticulously ready to edit yourself and to edit your ideas that you thought were the right ideas or you thought were the best way to move forward. Because at the end of the day, it's like, is it going to work? Because you kind of think in your life, like, all right, I know this, but there's so many other people with different perspectives, and having to deal with a product being like, I love this, but what's going to make that person love this? And it's translating your passion to become something that they want to spend their money on. And that's hard to do these days. So
that's well said.
Yeah.
How do we communicate that value in someone else's life? And if they can't see it and they can't see it quickly, then they won't adopt it. I think that's why we've really tried to stay just customer centric and just trying to create something that people have said they want, and then communicating that story in a way that connects with their needs, and just really obsessing on how do we create the whole process in a way that feels super aligned to what we care about, but also what we believe our customer cares about.
Yeah. So like, how are you guys doing that? Are you guys, tell me about like where you guys are in the process. You talked about some issues on getting the bottles and stuff. You have the formula. What's the timeline? When am I going to be able to use this as a sponsor on the podcast? And I'm drinking my coffee. I'm working on the pod. Like, where are you guys in the whole viewpoint?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully when everyone hears this, it's ready now. Go buy it.
Boom.
But no, right now I think we're about. I think we like to think we're like a month and a half out.
Cool.
And like the formula is ready. Our bottles are fully designed. That's why maybe the low earlier is so relevant, was because there's a lot of pieces that are like ready to go. And it's just finding the right. It's just kind of those lead times and how long it takes to ship something across the ocean on a boat, and just being patient in that part. But no, I think one thing we're really excited about is we've been building a lot of really exciting relationships with coffee brands, coffee shops, distributors, just brands in the coffee
Starbucks.
space. Someday, yeah.
I love it.
No, but actually, like starting local, and
Do it. Yeah, that's community.
Yeah, like digging deep. And we've been getting some really good feedback. I mean, beginning of your question, you kind of asked like, how do we maybe stay like customer centric? And I think it's like every step of the way, like not getting so excited that we're like just gonna go sprint, but sort of reminding ourselves like, hold on, like how can we integrate like the customer voice, the voice of consumer into like each step, just so we're kind of checking ourselves and making sure we're making kind of the right decision, like on behalf of the consumer. And that's, I mean, we've changed our launch strategy like 4 times in just like even the last 5 months, like in a big way, because we're just like, you know what? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like this is probably how to connect with the consumer better, like right out of the gate.
Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, even that we talked about early in the podcast, just the power of the local coffee shop and how that is such a community space. And one of the things we've realized as a brand is we want to be pushing people to go to those spaces more. And part of that partnership with coffee shops is we want to post up and have a table outside, hand out samples, talk to people, and sort of have a message that encourages more people into those community spaces where connection can really happen, and those conversations can flow.
Yeah, I love those ideas that are bigger than just a bottle of mouthwash. And I actually drink mushroom coffee and stuff like that because of the caffeine and some of the focus and stuff. And I love that sort of things. And it still has coffee in it, but whenever I think of tannins, and I spoke about this with Joe when we were together, it was all based. I think of tannins in wine and stuff, and so it could be used in wine. It could be used in, I don't know, eating different types of foods and stuff. Are there tannins in foods that we're eating? And can this translate to multiple other angles?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you're right on with that, Carter.
Boom.
Yeah. So we see the tannins as that connecting compound, right? And it allows us to create lifestyle-based products that fit into people's lifestyles, enhance whatever that experience is, whether it be coffee, wine, smoothies. That's kind of where we're headed. But we I think are really focused on this beautiful little bean that is coffee. Speaking of, do you know what coffee, like what is the original form of coffee, like when it is first picked?
It's a bean, right?
It's not a bean, not in the original form.
What is it?
Or it's a bean, it's a cherry. So if you don't know this, listeners, or Carter,
boom,
it is a cherry, and so you can Google that, and you'll see it's red. And so you pick the cherries, and then from those cherries there's different processes to sort of begin to roast and burn those beans to the point at which they actually become green before they get roasted. And then you're essentially burning the beans, and you want to burn them to different degrees. Less burn is a light roast, more burn is a dark roast. So on.
What? Coffee is from cherries? See, I would have never ever believed that, thought of that, or seen that.
I mean,
you learn something new every day.
Cherry you would buy in a grocery store, but they're called coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's why they go so well together too. Like people love having like the cherry and the chocolate. Yeah, I did not know that. I mean, that's education too. That's like learning about a product and defining where we actually know our stuff. We may not be dentists, we may not do that, but we care about what we're going to give you and what we're trying to fix. That's cool.
Yeah.
And is there, now you guys rehydrate. I just wanted to ask like a one-off question. Like, is there a way to take out tannins from coffee? Like, does any coffee or things do that? Do you know?
It would lose its flavor because
Okay.
it is that astringency of it.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting question. Something we've explored and talked about is what does that look like? But you can't, at least as far as I know, maybe Joe has knowledge on this that I don't, but there's no way that I know.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say first, I don't know, but second, we kind of lean into the fact that like they're there, right? Like Henry mentioned the fact that they give it the taste that we all know and love. But I think part of like kind of wanting to be like the coffee companion is, we're a very pro coffee brand. We're not saying like, coffee's bad because it does these things. Like everyone knows it does these things, but our purpose is like for coffee drinkers, by coffee drinkers. We all know this is going on. So what if we could make, your coffee drinking experience just like a little less not good, And that's like the whole purpose is like accepting, that's nature, right? It's like this balance.
Yeah. Quite literally, I mean, the washes the tannins out. So
yeah. And so you guys have different flavors. Is like the cinnamon I remember you seeing. Is there one flavor? Do you have multiple flavors?
So we're starting simple, starting with one. And like
Nice.
we said, we're going to create based on what you listener customers, future customers tell us you guys want. And we'll stay adaptive. And obviously we have our preferences, but we think this flavor is really solid. And we all enjoy it. We focus group it, and people seem to really like it. So we're just going to start there and kind of expand on the cinnamon.
Good. You can't, put the rod in the water. That's what you got to do. You throw 50 rods, you're getting pulled everywhere. You can't do that, and you can't focus. One of the last things I want us to just hit on a little bit, you guys were talking a little bit about funding and stuff like that and the struggles there, but the beauty of having those connections and things like that. In terms of the pricing and idea around the bottle, like, what is your envisionment? Like, what do you guys want to sell it for? You don't have to get into like full costs and stuff, but I'd love to hear a little bit about the financials and where that plan goes.
Yeah, I think it's like any startup, it's tough to start because your
money, please.
Your volume's small. You don't have any money. You got, people don't really have the greatest trust in you because there's nothing really to show. But right out the gate, like we're encouraged about like the margins that we're seeing on the two different products because we're starting with two sizes, a 30 milliliter, like a 1 ounce, and a 500 milliliter. It's like a 16.9 ounce. The little guy is going to go, it's like 2 to 3 servings, and it's probably going to go for like $3 is what we're looking at. Looking at $1.50 a swish. And then the big one's going to be like 16, so kind of like a normal price for a quality mouthwash. And because again, like we're trying to make it as easy as possible for the consumer to integrate it into their life.
Yeah.
Despite being a pretty new concept, in the sense that it's post coffee, we don't want it to feel hard to add it to your routine. Ideally, you're going to just replace the mouth rinse you use right now, but then also bring it with you on the go. Bring it in your work bag. Have it with you wherever you go after or during drinking coffee.
Yeah. What if you swallowed it? Is that like other mouthwashes you can't swallow? Is this like don't swallow this either?
It having all like kind of natural ingredients I don't know.
You'd be
I
all
mean,
right.
I'm not gonna say do it.
Chug it.
Don't do it.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, don't do
disclaimer.
it. But the thing is, like, we actually originally wanted it to be that way.
Whoa.
Make it even more convenient. And then someone we talked to like early on was like, it's going to be really hard and expensive to launch a product like that. Because just considering like the testing that goes into like long-term impact of ingesting something,
Yeah, people's systems
whatever it is,
too.
even if it's an all-natural thing, like just you have to do research, and we didn't want to do that.
Yeah, so we're looking into a potential like drinkable product in the future, but for now, just kind of sticking to what people know with a little swish, spit, and smile.
Yeah, that's the tagline: swish, spit, and smile. that works.
That's the directions on the back of the bottle.
Dude, that guys, I mean, I think you guys have something like really, really cool. I can't wait to try it. I think it's going to be one of the really interesting products coming out that is cool, coming from a couple of friends, couple of Charlotte people that care about people. So I'd love to understand and tell the listeners like where you can find Tannin and what website, how you can get more involved, how you can learn more about this educational awareness.
Yeah, we'll send you to two places. The first, definitely go buy the product. Hopefully it's out by the time you're listening to this at tanninrinse.com. And follow us on social media. Instagram's a great place to find us, and that is at Coffee Rinse on Instagram and TikTok as well. So yeah, hop on. We're always trying to educate, like we tried to do in this podcast, hopefully successfully, around coffee, oral health, and then where those two collide as well.
Yeah. I love that. Joe, anything on the Tannin Rinse?
About where to find it?
I guess in stores and stuff. Are you guys hoping to get into some stores too?
So we're going to start in stores.
In stores.
You're going to be able to get it online, right when we launch. But again, we're really excited about becoming really close and selling it through coffee shops and markets. But seeing that kind of like distinct nature of the product, being so close to the coffee community, we want to meet people where they're at already.
Yeah.
If you have a favorite coffee shop that you'd like to see Tannin in, then please reach out to us, and we'd love to figure out how we can get it to where you're at. And, we're just excited to meet the people too, I think, that are using this. That's one of the things that I know we constantly go back to and talk about is how excited we are to continue having the conversations like we're having with you, Carter, where we get to not just talk about Tannin or coffee, but just talk about things that light our souls on fire and get us excited and learn about you guys and learn about you.
I couldn't agree more. And I was joking with Joe. If you guys need a salesman, if you guys need some love down in Texas, I'd be happy to start exploring that a little bit more. There's a lot of coffee shops here, Texas. Everything's bigger here. I could boots on the ground.
We have to double up that order quantity if we're sending it down to Texas.
Hey man, the possibilities are endless out here. I will tell you what.
We might come out with a gallon size for Texas.
Yeah, for Texas.
Super size me, right? Yeah. But I think that what you guys are doing is fantastic. I think that this was nuggets of so much cool information. I thought that before you think about mouthwash, and now people are going to look at it in a completely different way. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming on, talking about this. And you got to come back on. So as we talk about some of the evolutions, what's growing, what you guys are seeing, I'd love to hear more and more as time goes by.
Forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing this. Can't wait to go back and listen to some of the old episodes as well. And keep going, bro. This is awesome.
Thanks, man. So you can find us on Apple, Spotify, even on YouTube. As always, keep living the luck management lifestyle. Peace.